So on your table, you have the 8 pillars of trust, but also you have these on your table as well. Now, those are normal adult sizes, but if you're like me and Jonathan, we're a little bit bigger than normal adults, so we have to have a little bit larger one. So if it doesn't fit well, up here are the larger ones. But if you'll look at it, on one side, it has, obviously, it's branding. It's got my company and my website. But if you look, we have very similar taglines. Yours is service above self. I'm think beyond self. And so with that, this is going to be a pretty good audience that is already thinking about other people instead of themselves. And that's what our employees, our students, whoever we're trying to lead, need. They need people who care about them. Not necessarily about us and what we want to accomplish, but them and what they can accomplish. How can we put them in the best possible positions for them to thrive and be the best? And so I want to start today with a number. 31%. 31%. So that's the percentage of employees that are actively engaged in their jobs. 31%. What's an actively engaged employee? That's our go-to people. That's the ones that go above and beyond all the time. They're the ones that's looking for things to do instead of you having to give them things to do. They're the people we want in our companies. They're the people we love, right? Problem is, 31%. It gets worse. 47% of those 31% are looking for other opportunities. So half of the people that you love. And the big definition of an actively engaged employee is somebody who actually loves their job. They don't just like their job. They love their job. They love their job, except for half of them are looking for another opportunity. What's going on there? What's going on? So we have to, to figure out what's going on, we got to look at the other 69%. So the other 69% of the employee base is basically 52% are mildly or neutrally engaged, apathetic. They're the ones that, you know, you ask them how they're doing or how they like their job. Oh, it's fine. It's good. They rarely talk about it. They show up because they want what? Money. They want a paycheck. They got to live. And there's nothing wrong with that. They actually can do a very good job. They're just not going to give it everything that they could. And what helps our businesses grow, what helps our students get better, is when they give all of their self to their job, or to their work, or to their studies, or to their family, or to their church, or wherever they're actively engaging at. But we got 52% of people who are neutrally engaged. At least 17%. They're actively disengaged. They stir the pot, they gossip, they talk about the management, they talk about everybody, how everybody does it wrong. They know everything, everybody else doesn't know anything. And the problem also with that is 7% of those people are actually very toxic. They're cancerous to the culture. We need to release them into the wild and let them go. So, have you ever heard the thing, Zig Ziglar was big on this, turn over 20% of your company all the time. You got to keep turning 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. You know why? Trying to flush out that 17%. That's what you're trying to do. Instead of trying to engage with them and actually take them up, at least try to get them into the apathetics, right? But the problem is, it's hard. People engagement is not easy. You have to be intentional with it. And I know everyone in this room is busy. I get it. And we keep giving more work to our go-to people because why? They get it done, right? And we got a business to run. We got efficiencies. I get it. But we need to, the reason why 47% are looking for another job, we're burning them out. They may say, hey, it's fine, give me, I'll take it. But realistically and silently, they don't like it. We're burning them out, or they're watching you tolerate a bad employee. That kills a good employee quicker than anything else, is watching you tolerate something bad, something that they would never do and can't understand why you tolerate it. But I get it, we're busy. It takes a lot of time to hire people, and you know, I ain't got time today to deal with all this. You know, let Susie go deal with it or something like that. But we need to start taking some ownership in our people and pouring into them just as much as we pour into our budgets and strategies and marketing and advertising. You can spend as much money as you want to with advertising, marketing, to get people to come in your business or get students to come to your university or whatever. But if they don't find a place to belong when they get there and that they feel welcome to come there, they're not going to stay. And so what do we need to do? And by the way, there is hope. I know you're sitting there thinking, you know, gee, Jonathan, thanks for bringing this really positive guy here. You know, I was hoping to get a little uplift before I got out of here, but yeah, that's all doom and gloom. But listen, I am positive about one thing. Unless you do something about it, it ain't going to change. And it starts with you. It starts with the leader. I don't like the word manager. Be honest, I just don't like the word manager. I want leaders. You manage tasks, you manage things, you manage assets, you lead people. And it doesn't matter what business that you're in. You might think you're in the, Carrie, you're in the banking business. So you, Jonathan, universities, education, government, whatever industry. I was in the furniture industry for 30 years. But I'm in the people business. Everyone's in the people business. If you don't understand that, if there's one thing you can take away from today, you're in the people business. Now here's the problem with how we promote people and put them into positions of, I won't call it leadership because most of the time they don't know how to lead, but I'll call it, you know, positions of power. And so you're good at your job. Likely you're the best at your job, and they give you a promotion because you're good and you get things done, and so they promote you. And then you're there. Now you've got all these people under you, working for you, doing the job that you used to do so well, that a lot of times what winds up happening, we become micromanagers. We jump in and do it for them, or we want them to do it exactly the way we want it done because that was the way that we did it, right? But people are not that way. We need to lead the people. We need to empower the people to do the job. And you only can do that when you put them above yourself. You're going to get yours. If you take care of your people and you put them in the best possible position for them to succeed and get what they want out of life and have a good job, a good relationship, and all of this, you're going to be the beneficiary too. That's what I've built my whole career. I'm not that good, but I know how to put people in the position for them to succeed. And when they do, I get to as well. But it is more about them than it is about me. And how, you know, we always are working on our businesses. You can, now I'm fist of trash consultants. I'm sorry, you know, that's me. I'm fist of trash myself. So a lot of times businesses hire consultants. We go off for a day or two and we think about the vision, strategy, mission, and all that for the company, and we come away and we got all this big vision, big strategy, and we say, okay, this is the way it's going to go, and this is going to be great and wonderful. And we come back and we starting to put in that strategy and put in those things that we're going to do, and if you don't have the right culture, it's not going to last. Culture eats strategy for lunch. And speaking of lunch, let's talk about a culture that we're familiar with. We'll talk about two of them in a very difficult segment of our economy, in the fast food segment. Let's talk about Chick-fil-A. We all are familiar with Chick-fil-A. Why do you go to Chick-fil-A?
Service.
Perfect. Exactly. I mean, they got chicken that's okay. Now, I choke on their biscuits. I'm going to be honest. I don't like their biscuits. And don't tell Wade I said that, please. But they have culture down. Now, it started with strategy back with Truett when he started the company. His strategy was take care of the customer better than anybody else ever will in the fast food industry. That was the strategy. So they started being the culture that did that. Now, do you think about the way I do? So Wade has the same work pool to hire from. Teenagers, basically. The teenager that's at home, that's sullen, slams the door, you don't know nothing, you know, that kid. But yet they become this alien when they go to work for Chick-fil-A. That's yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir, and the ever popular what?
My pleasure.
My pleasure. You know, when I go around the country some with business, I was with Lazy Boy, and I'd go around and I would run into new salespeople or meet people that I'm working with, and I ask them, you know, say thank you, and they say my pleasure. I said Chick-fil-A, right? And they all yes. Culture will stay. They will carry the culture forward with them, right? So I'm going to give you a little hint. You see somebody who's got Chick-fil-A on their resume and they were there for longer than 6 months, I'd hire them. Take a flyer. Take a chance. Hire them. They've got culture built in. Warren Buffett says you hire for character and then you train everything else, or you educate everything else. The only thing is you can't educate culture. You can't train culture. You can't install culture like you can a strategy. You have to be culture. And their culture at Chick-fil-A is yes sir, no sir, my pleasure. I've talked to Wade about this on several occasions and asked him, and he says, yeah, we do education and we do training, you know, for a week. He said, but it's nothing like dropping that kid in that store and watch it within a week to 10 days how they start acting like everybody else around them. That's the power of culture. That's something that you can't install. You can only be that. Another culture in the fast food industry is Starbucks. Same kids, they hire from the same pool, but those kids are so on fire and passionate about coffee, right? You go in there and order a large coffee and they what? You want grande? You mean grande? They look at you and grande, latte, venti, all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I want a grande coffee with a shot of espresso. It's not espresso, it's espresso. They're a little snooty, but it's a culture. But that's the culture that Starbucks wants. They want coffee to be more than coffee. They want it to be an experience. And that's what they're creating with their culture, with their baristas. Do you get the same vibe at Dunkin' when you go in to get your coffee as you get at Starbucks? No. No, you can get a donut though, that's good instead of a scone, but it's that culture, vibe, it's that vibe, and vibe is culture. And we've talked about all of the employee engagement, and how does that tie in with this? You get the culture right, you get the engagement right too. Because Chick-fil-A, even though they don't publish their numbers, we have ways to try to find out, figure out, and understand what their employee engagement is. Their engagement's in the mid-90s. Their kids love working there and they tell everybody about it and they do a great job. So their engagement is in the mid-90s. Other companies that are high in the engagement, say 85 and above, Apple, American Express, MasterCard, Hilton. And what all of those people have in common is service to others. So they're building a service to other people, putting other people's wants, needs, and desires ahead of theirs. Because if they provide the service, the people will keep coming back, right? And that's what we try to do with our businesses, provide excellent service. If we can just get excellent service, but are we working with people who want to give excellent service, right? Do we have that workforce there that feels engaged enough, feels valued enough, trusted enough to be their authentic self and do what we're asking them to do, which is just to be human and to take care of other people. Now, I happen to believe the culture that is best suited for businesses, educational, governments, whatever, is trust. You know, trust in our country is at an all-time low, right? I think it started in the 60s with the Vietnam War. Institutional trust started going downhill about that time. You know, before that, we trusted our politicians, we trusted what they said to do, and for the most part, we had a high trust level, and we went along with everything because we felt like they had our best interests at heart. But when we started lying about the numbers and we started doing different things with Vietnam, then Watergate happened, and then Iran-Contra, I'm going to pick on Reagan, even though he's my idol, I'm going to pick on him. Iran-Contra, that had something to do with our trust levels. And it's just deteriorated from there. I can go multiple things throughout society that has contributed to the decline in our trust. But there's good news, you can build trust. You can build into a trust culture, but you have to start acting like a trust culture. Yes, sir?
Not to interrupt, I just wanted to, Quick Trip, would you put them in with that culture that's built in? Because you go to Quick Trip just about when you're traveling throughout the country, and I get the same experience, and I don't care where. Sometimes I'm in Georgia, I don't know if I'm in Georgia or if I'm in Alabama, but I would just say Quick Trip maybe would be on that list of a culture that.
I don't know the exact numbers for sure, but I can affirm what you're saying. I can go in any company that has employee facing, you know, to the customer or to the client. I can observe them for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, maybe 10. Not really how they interact with me, but how they interact with each other, and then how they interact with the other customers in the store. And I can tell you whether their lead team takes care of them or not. Because anytime that you see a high functioning culture where they're looking at the other person, their lead team is taking care of them. You know, I hate to pick on, and I hope nobody's in here, but you know, Dollar General, come on. I can tell you that they're the worst rated company to work for by their employees. That's public knowledge, and it shows. Now we go in there because the prices are good, but the culture is bad. And we, as a consumer, we can overlook culture if we're motivated enough to overlook culture. But we are drawn to good culture, to excellent culture. That's who we want to do business with, and that's who everybody else wants to do business with. So trust can go up the chain, down the chain, across the chain, go internal to external, external to internal. And that's what you want. That's what you want trust to be, your lifeblood that flows through. And by the way, trust is our currency of the day. Every relationship that we have is built on some level of trust. The volume is either up or it's down. We either have high trust or low trust. We have a whole industry that is built on distrust, the lock industry. If we trusted everybody, there's no need to lock anything up. But distrust started back with the caveman. I'm sure he probably had a bicycle chain around his wheel and had it locked up so Igor wouldn't steal it from him or something, right? So mistrust has been more prevalent to us in our culture than trust over the last several years, but it's time to take it back. We can build trust. We can restore trust in our employees and give them trust. And how do we do it? In front of you, you got our 8 pillars of trust. And within those pillars, all of them are important, but there's 3 superpower pillars: connection, clarity, and consistency. That's, I don't know, Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man. That's your 3. That's the 3 you want on your team. And it all starts with connection, really. And connection is, you know, when somebody meets you for the first time, and y'all are looking at me, and when one of the questions subconsciously, whether you know it or not, it sort of went through your head, it's just the way we do psychologically, the way your brain operates, is, you know, can this guy help me? Do you care about me? And can I trust you? That's 3 questions that run quickly through your brain, whether you know it or not. But the main question is a 4th one: am I safe? That's the brain. The brain's only function for you is to keep you alive and to keep you safe. Everything it learns is to keep you safe. You have a subconscious bias that you've started from the time you were born until you are here today. And it's your brain not remembering these wonderful memories and all of this thing. It's remembering bits and pieces of your life to keep you safe, so that you can recognize a safe environment versus a non-safe environment. And so we have to be safe before we can start connecting. So on these pillars, if you just imagine each one of them as 8 pillars holding a building up, if you got a foundation, the foundation is safety. And it goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you know about that, his triangle hierarchy of needs, the very base need that we have as humans is food, water, shelter. The next one up is safety and security. The next one after that is relationships and connection. I can't get to relationships and connections on a deep enough level until I feel safe. And safety is more than just that, you know, fear, forget everything and run, right? That type of fear, a bear in front of me. Thing about your brain, your amygdala, where all of that cortisol and all that comes out of, it doesn't know fear, whether it's a bear or whether it's a boss yelling at me. It's the same thing. It's the same neurotransmitter that gets fired off. Worry and anxiety, low levels of anxiety, all it is low levels of fear. You're fearful about something, right? And in our workplaces, if we have high anxiety workplaces, they're fearful. Now, what the brain does when it releases cortisol is it starts shutting down things it don't need, because it's forget everything and run. So it starts shutting things, and it shuts down the prefrontal cortex. It's where all your linear and your cognitive thinking is. So you've ever been in a hot, deep, heated debate about something, and 30 minutes, 40 minutes later, you say, man, I wish I would have said that. It was because cortisol had shut that part down where you couldn't think about it. That's just true. And so we don't think. So what we're doing sometimes, if we have our teams under high stress, high anxiety, we're shutting down their thinking capacity. We're making them 33% stupid. That's why I say let's look at our people, not all the times about the numbers. And yes, numbers are important. We have to hit numbers. We can't stay in business if we don't hit numbers. But your people should come first. There's a pyramid that a lot of people in power like. They like to be at the top of the pyramid. And then the task, the product, the customer, and then on the base is the employee is down on the bottom. I flip it. You're down on the bottom. Your employee is the main thing for you. If you take care of them, they'll take care of everything in between you. And that's your job. So, we have to make them safe. And you do that through these 8 pillars. There's different ways that we can walk through this and help people to get safe and feel connected. And we talk about clarity. I'm going to give you one really quick, easy hit. something you can win with at home or at work or in the classroom. Get more clear. We think we communicate all the time, and we do. We think we are very clear with our communication, and we're not. Kerry will know when he and I are planning stuff, he knows that I want a date and time on the calendar of when we're going to do this. I've got to have a date and time and calendar, and who's going to be doing it. And all too often we have this thing in the office, hey, when you can, Jonathan, get that back to me just as soon as you can, right? And so I go off back to my office. Now, my soon as you can is really as soon as it came out of my mouth. Now, Jonathan's may not be that way. It may be, okay, I got a little time to work on this. And so off we go. So now what happens? Frustration starts to set in at some point, because now I haven't gotten it and it's been 3 hours. And Jonathan should have known that when I said as soon as possible, I literally meant like right now, but he should have known that. But he didn't, because his as soon as possible is different from mine. So what I can do though is say, hey Jonathan, within the next 30 minutes, could you get that report back to me? He knows he's got 30 minutes. That actually gives him safety. It's like our kids, you know, we think our kids really don't want discipline, but they do want to know where the boundaries are. They want the clarifiers. And if we give those to them, they feel safer with that. They know they're in that protection circle, right? And we can do that with our employees as well. If you got a project that's going to go on for a little bit of time and you say, I need it by the end of the week. Today's Tuesday, I need it by the end of the week. Bad. Bad. People are procrastinators. So by the end of the week is, okay, does that mean Friday at 5 o'clock, or do I have the weekend, because you're not going to be working during the weekend, and so can I do this over the weekend, and this, as long as I've got it to you by Monday morning at 8 o'clock when you get in the office, is that going to be okay? No, it's not. So let's go ahead and think about what our people are going to be doing and give them a reasonable deadline that they can hit, that I know I can use their most brain power. Everybody's brain power is the most active in your second hour of being awake for about 2 hours, 3 hours. You're really good. If you get up at 7 o'clock and you get to work at 8 o'clock, you're really good from 8 to 11. And then you start diminishing a little bit through the day. So all of my deadlines are going to be 11 o'clock. If my deadline is a end of week, it's 11 o'clock on Thursday morning. Because I'm going to let them procrastinate all they want. And then when they get up and say, oh no, I got to get this report to Rusty, and it's 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm using their most brain power. I'm not going to let them go into the afternoon after they've ate spaghetti and green beans and sort of get that afternoon lull going, because it happens. It's just your natural business, natural body rhythm. You're going to dip in the afternoon. So if they've got a 5 o'clock deadline or a 4 o'clock deadline, they're going to procrastinate till after lunch. I know people. They will. People are people. And so now I'm going to use less of their brain power to get a project done that I want to get done. So ODC. I am OCD, but I want you to remember ODC. Outcome, deadline, clarifiers. If you will start using that quick little method, here's the outcome that I need. I need this report done this way, such and such. Here's the deadline. I need it by Thursday at 11 a.m. And here's the clarifiers. I want, last year's revenue numbers, blah, 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 blah. We go back and forth and we clear up what exactly am I looking for, right? This person then has to tell me back, and we agree on all three things. We agree on the outcome, we agree on the deadline, and we agree on the clarifiers, or they get to ask more questions to be clear. I give it to them. I can walk away, hopefully, knowing it's going to be done by 11 o'clock on Thursday. But if you start just using that one little tool, one little thing, you will start seeing your people perform a little bit better, because they know what you want. The problem is we show them what they do, and we hardly ever tell them what we want. If you educate to why first, then you can train for almost any how. If they understand and they really grasp the why we want this done, then they will do a how. If you don't tell them the why, they're going to shortcut the how. People are people, they always do it. If we have 31% that are actively engaged, and we want to get that, the group that I focus on really is the 52%, because in the business that I do, I don't actually work, well, I can. I do have some one-on-ones with some of the actual employees and workers and everything, but mainly I deal with the lead teams, the people who are in charge of the people who do the job. And I teach them all of this information, how to relate to people, because they didn't get taught that. You got taught how to do your job. You got taught accounting. You got taught engineering. You got taught all of this different type of things, but one thing that you didn't get taught in your schooling, it's just hopefully you learned it growing up, is how to relate to people. And if you're in the people business, I would think you would want to know how to relate to people. So I'm not a business consultant. And you can do all the great strategies, hire Deloitte, hire Korn Ferry, do all of that kind of stuff to get all these strategies to come in and fix your business. But until you fix your culture, you're not going to fix your business. It's just not going to happen, because you can't, strategy won't win against culture. So we have to attack the culture. So I'm going to focus on those 52%. I'm going to try to look at the ones who are apathetic and try to get them a little bit more engaged. And by the way, apathy and what they are, they're really comfortable. They're comfortable in their job. They just do their job. It's sort of autopilot type of thing. They don't look for anything else harder to do. It's just autopilot. But comfort is where innovation goes to die. You know, if we always stay in our comfort zone, if you're wanting other things and you're in your comfort zone all the time, you would already have them if they were in your comfort zone. Most of the time they're outside of our comfort zone. So we have to get a little bit of comfortable with being uncomfortable. We have to change some things up, and people hate change. Your brain, that's why, because your brain has learned all this stuff to keep you safe, and now you want to start to change stuff, and it's not happy with that. But we can overcome that. We can say, okay, it's going to be hard. I'm going to embrace it because I'm going to be uncomfortable. And so we're going to just start going down this road. So how do we look at the 52%? So what I have been successful with is taking this curriculum, the whole 8 pillars of trust, and working with the Herman whole brain thinking and some of my things that I've developed over the years, the 5E of leadership, which is engage, empathy, equip, empower, and encourage. Those are the 5 things you need to be doing with your people all the time. And so taking those things and doing monthly, usually monthly facilitations and one-on-one meetings, you can start to affect that 31%. You can start growing it. Because working through your people and educating them on how to be people, and then go relate with their people and get them doing things that they didn't know they could do, wanted to do, or was asked to do, they will start being more engaged. I'll give you some numbers from my most longest tenured client. I've been working with this client on the coast, this 3-store furniture chain. I've been actually working with them since 2006 when I went to work for Lazy Boy, and I was their Lazy Boy person. And we worked on and off over the last 20 years, but it wasn't until last year when I retired from Lazy Boy and started 5E that I started working with them more specifically on this, on trying to change the culture. They had a good culture, but we was working on trying to change it. So we can measure, obviously, the engagement, but I can measure trust levels in your companies too. We've got some surveys that can measure your trust level. So we put in the field with them back in July of 23 when I first started doing this, and we benchmarked it first before we ever jumped into any curriculum or any education, and we looked at it, and they were basically a little bit above average from Gallup. They were 44% engaged, which is good. I mean, it's not the 31%, but 44% engaged. And their trust was pretty good. It was at 71%, no, actually 72% trust. So that was pretty good. Our national average on trust index is 65%. So whereas the national average for engagement is 31, national average for trust is 65. And so theirs was 44 and 72, just a little bit above. So we started working, started doing these things, and then in May of last year, May 24, we did another survey of both to see where we were after just working with the 5 to 6 to 8 leaders and them going into their stores and interacting with people. We wanted to see, okay, where are we at now? And our engagement level with our employees, because everybody takes this, our engagement level from the employees had gone in that period of time from what was it, to May, had gone up to 71% engagement. We had gone from 44 to 71%. Trust, even though they were already a fairly high trust organization, had gone up to 84%, so 72 to 84. And just first part of this month, we put it back in the field, the surveys again, to see where we're at now. And proud to say now we are at 84% engagement and we are at 91% trust. It's no wonder that their revenues are up, that their profits are up. Now, I'm not going to take all the credit for it. I'm going to take some, but I'm not going to take all the credit for it. They had to do the work, but they had to have the tools to do the work with. They had to have the education to understand, if you do these things, this will happen. And most everything that we do is based on neuroscience and psychology of people. Whether it's the Herman whole brain thinking, that's where we map out and see how does people actually think. We think out of 4 quadrants of our brain. How do we think? So that I can start talking to that person in the quadrant in which they think in. And then we learn about trust and how can I show trust so that I build trust. You can't just say, trust me, everything will be okay. I don't trust you from Adam at that, right? But if you show me that I can be trusted, then I'm going to start trusting you. And then the 5 E's, it's just that simple. Just if you encourage your people, encouragement is more effective than discipline. Find them doing something right and encourage the fire out of that, and you will keep getting that behavior. That's sort of like what Wade does. He encourages their kids all the time. You're doing such a great job. Man, I saw you work with that customer. By the way, don't tell people you're a rock star, you're so bright, you're so gifted, you're so wonderful, you're such talented, you're a great athlete, all of that kind of stuff. They'll start believing that, and then they will stop doing the things that got them to that. They'll just sort of start resting on their laurels. They'll find that comfort zone and say, hey, I'm gifted. I don't have to do much. I don't have to study that hard. We encourage the effort. We encourage that, hey, I saw you out there taking BP when everybody else was already going home. You know, that's going to turn into something someday. You're going to hit well. Or you hear somebody, we had a situation down on the same customer. They had a customer service rep that would take calls, and the manager or the leader could hear the way that person answered the call, and it would drive her nuts because she was not answering the call and talking to him in the way that she wanted. And then she said, I keep telling her, you can't, and so can't, right? You don't. And I said, quit that. Sit there and listen until you finally hear her answer it the right way one time. And then immediately when she hangs up the phone, go out there and just encourage the fire out of her. That's the way that you're supposed to answer the phone. I appreciate that so much. That customer got great service because of you doing what you're asked to do, blah, 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 right? And so she did that. She never had to talk to her about how to answer the phone ever again. That's been 1.5 years now. So encouragement. So where does it start? It starts with you. Nothing's going to change until you want it to change. And also, if nothing changes, nothing changes. You know, hopefully you've heard some inspiration today. But if you don't do anything with it, it was just talk. Does it have much substance? Unless you want to do something with it. And, you know, every day that we get up, we get a breath, a chance, and a choice. God gives us a breath to get up and still live and still walk His creation that He's so generously given us and do the things that He's blessed us with and everything. We ought to be thankful for that breath that He gives us, but He also gives us a chance. He gives us a chance to be something to somebody, to be more than just what we are, to show a little bit of Him through us so that, you know, somebody else may be walking through something that's not very good right now, but if they run into us, they're not going to get negativity. They're going to get something encouraging from us, right? And then it becomes your choice. Life is nothing but a series of choices. Choices have consequences, either good or bad. And we can choose to speak life to people or speak death to them. We can choose to be adding value to people or taking value. We can choose to be, as I like to call it, we can be a battery or we can be a vacuum. We can either give power to somebody or we can suck the life out of them. And you're going to do that. So why not make the choice to put somebody else first? You know, I love a friend of mine, Jeff Coletto. Always you ask Jeff, and how are you doing today? Well, I've never had a bad day. And I got sick and tired of hearing that. We all have bad days. And I called him out on it one time. Now, granted, we're in California. He lives in Temecula in this called Canyon Lakes. We're in Southern California. We're up at his house, looking down at the lake, crystal clear. It's 332 stairs to get down to his boat launch. So that's how far up we're up, right? And I'm thinking, yeah, I could sit here and never have a bad day too. But so yeah, it's sort of hard to have a bad day when you're looking at something like that. But I said, you know, Jeff, we all have bad days. He said, yeah, you're right. He said, but I don't have the right to give you my bad day. He said, so I'm going to take care of it myself, along with some help from other people that'll come alongside of me and help pick me up. He said, but I don't want to give you anything that's going to start and derail your day. So it's your choice. What are you going to do with it? Thank you.